عندما لا تضيع عنده الودائع ورفعت الجلسة.
Cleared of ordering the killing of protesters during Egypt's 2011 revolution. A judge dismisses all charges against former President Hosni Mubarak 4 years after the uprising that toppled the long-time leader. What message is the verdict sending? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Jane Dutton. A court in Egypt has dropped all charges against former President Hosni Mubarak relating to the deaths of protesters during the 2011 uprising that unseated him. Even as the judge began delivering his verdict, Mubarak raised his right hand defiantly as he sat in a cage in a Cairo court. The packed courtroom then erupted in cheers as the judge threw out the case against him. Mubarak had been convicted and sentenced to life in prison in 2012 for inciting, arranging and assisting to kill peaceful protesters. But the verdict was overturned on a technicality. On appeal, the political landscape and reality in Egypt has changed dramatically since Mubarak's trial began, with the promise of the revolution never realized as the military seized control in a coup over the country's first freely elected government. So is it time to turn the page, or is there still unfinished business on Egypt's streets? For Inside Story, Amir Al-Saleh reports.
ورفعت الجلسة.
It was called the trial of the century in Egypt, and it ended with a controversial verdict, one that supporters of the deposed president celebrated. 3 years after he was forced out of office and one retrial later, Mubarak saw the case against him thrown out by the presiding judge. Mubarak had been charged with conspiring to kill protesters in January 2011.
It is not suitable for a former president to be taken to a criminal court according to the terms and conditions of the criminal law, or to consider the things he did wrong within his political responsibilities, even those crimes mentioned in the accusation list.
The court also cleared Mubarak's much-feared Interior Minister Habib al-Adli and 6 of his top aides. The judge ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to show that they killed or conspired to kill protesters. There were more than 800 people killed in the January revolution, but the court says it had legal papers for only 238 deaths. The verdict shocked the victims' families.
The verdict is wrong. We don't deserve this from the Egyptian judiciary.
Some were in tears, others chanted, "Down with the military regime." But some of Mubarak's supporters were jubilant.
Thanks God, now President Mubarak got his rights back from the conspiracy of January 25th.
This ruling could also raise questions about the independence of Egypt's judiciary and the influence of the government. Shortly after Mubarak resigned, he was found guilty of stealing public money. In 2012, the deposed president, along with his interior minister, was sentenced to life in prison for complicity in the killing of demonstrators. But in 2013, the Court of Cassation upheld an appeal by the two men on technical grounds and ordered a retrial in the case of the dead demonstrators. After that court decision, the current president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, led a military coup in July of last year to get rid of the president at the time, Mohamed Morsi. Sisi went on to win the presidential election, raising fears among many Egyptians that Mubarak and members of his regime would walk free. Some analysts accused the court of making a political decision.
The
judge said that the nation has overcome the revolutionary phase. This means the death certificate of the revolution. This is not a trial for Mubarak and his interior minister, but it is a trial of the January revolution. The court, which is supposed to be just and answer the question who killed the protesters, it didn't answer that.
Egypt has seen months of unrest. On Friday, several protesters were killed while anti-coup protests are continuing. The government has deployed the army and police to clamp down on demonstrators. Mubarak will remain under house arrest in a military hospital, serving a 3-year term for embezzlement. Amr Saleh for Inside Story.
So let's get the thoughts of our guests. Here in Doha, we have Zakaria Abdul Hadi, Associate Professor of Islamic Thought and Culture at Qatar University. Joining us from Cairo, Hassan Nafa, Professor of Political Science at the University of Cairo. And in London, Omar Ashur, Senior Lecturer in Middle East Politics and Security Studies at the University of Exeter. Gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you. Hassan Nafa, let's start off with your response to this court ruling. What do you make of it? What's the feeling in Cairo, the fact that Mubarak has been cleared of murder?
Well, despite the fact that many observers never excluded that possibility, the verdict today came as very shocking. I was personally shocked, and I think this will have some political impact, negative impact on the coming political scene in Egypt.
Why were you shocked?
For those who have participated in the 2011 January uprising, this means that Mubarak, who stayed for 30 years and was as despotic, as corrupted regime, is now is not convicted. It means that those who revolted against him are guilty, and I don't think that anybody in Egypt will take this seriously. Of course, we never. I don't question the independence of the judiciary in Egypt. But the case was not well prepared. The justice could be made only if all the triangle worked well. The Mubarak case was prepared by the security forces raised during Mubarak. Mubarak was tried according to laws that
okay, you say that you're not questioning the judiciary. I mean, Omar, what do you think this says about the judiciary? Is it independent, or is it now an instrument of the state?
To be honest, I wasn't shocked at all. I mean, the July 3rd regime made major violations in terms of repression and corruption that makes Mubarak look like much less repressive and much less corrupt. We're talking about events of mass killings, crackdowns on universities, judges that sentence 529 defendants in 2 sessions for a death sentence, and then another time 683 defendants. And what you're seeing is a mockery of the judiciary in many ways. But what really surprised me to a certain degree was how did he deal with the repression and corruption charges. We had about 4 repression charges and 2 repression charges and 2 corruption charges and 1 misdemeanor. And the major one was Mubarak's accusation of killing or participating in killing the protesters. And what he said is that the Prosecutor General, as early as March 2011, said that there is not insufficient evidence to put Mubarak on trial, and he has an actual official decision. Nobody knew about this decision, and then in May 2011, Mubarak was actually referred to trial. So the Prosecutor General issued 2 conflicting decisions. After that, Mubarak was convicted, as we know, in August or June 2012. Meaning that the judiciary completely disregarded the decision of the Prosecutor General in March. And then now, in November 2014, the judiciary is basically saying, no. The Prosecutor General back in March 2011 said that there is insufficient evidence, and we uphold that. It really makes a mockery of the judiciary on one hand, and the Prosecutor General office, of course, but also it tells you that the Prosecutor General office more or less acted as a deception tool for the military, a deception tool to absorb public anger, and then after that give these conflicting decisions, and there is of course no recourse or and complete impunity in that sense. Nobody will come after them and tell them that you made a mockery out of the legal process.
Zakaria, how do you feel about this ruling?
Okay, well, I was not shocked as well, like my friend in London, and I think it's. I said it here before in Jazeera a few months ago when the judge postponed the hearing over the sentencing of Mubarak, and I said it is just a matter of that they are trying to make the Egyptian public fed up of the situation, fed up to say that okay, we had enough of Mubarak. He's coming, he's going out, he's coming, he's going out, and the feeling of bringing him on the bed all the time, make people sympathizing with him, and all this to the level that people said, okay, let him go out. Now a lot of people, Egyptians, will feel, okay, finished, end of story. We don't want anything to do with them. But of course, this is a huge setback for the revolution, because what in fact was happening today, it was not a trial for Mubarak. It was a trial for the 25th revolution. The revolution, with all its tools, with all its members, with all its leaders, they are in prison. And Mubarak regime, with all its tools, all its members, are back in power. And so obviously when you have Mubarak regime on court by Mubarak regime itself, it won't be a surprise when they set him free.
I should imagine that it must be incredibly disappointing for those who took part in the revolution, because this is probably what they were holding on to, the last vestige of hope that they could get something from the revolution. Gone.
Not only this, but I would really be sad to see the tears of the mothers who lost their beloved ones in that revolution, for the ladies and girls who've been raped in Egypt by the military and by the officers, and they wanted to see some kind of justice. Today, all this is been trashed in the bin, and that will really make people despair that they don't have any place where they can go to find justice.
That's a good point, and I'm going to put it to Hassan. I mean, those who lost mothers, fathers, children in the revolution, they don't know now who is responsible. And somebody clearly must be responsible in that boys' club. I mean, who's it going to be?
This is exactly the issue. For two trials now, judges could have different interpretations of the same law and so on. They didn't find sufficient proof that Mubarak was involved or give direct orders and so on. This could be understood, but the question is, who killed those young people? He said he had numbered only 239 people killed in the period that was recorded. But as a matter of fact, the number is much more, is higher than this. But this question will work in the mind of the Egyptian people from now up. Who killed? We have to have an answer to that question. The Egyptian people has a right to have a good answer to that, and until this answer is furnished, there will be an unrest in the streets, and I think that's why the people will perceive the ongoing regime right now as anti-revolutionary or as an extension to the Mubarak regime. This is a real issue. So
I read quite an interesting tweet. Sorry, excuse me interrupting. I came across this interesting tweet from an Egyptian journalist saying it's as if the dead committed mass suicide. And when it comes to the man in question, Hosni Mubarak, he's given his reaction to the court verdict. He was giving this interview to a local Arabic TV station. He says, I felt I did nothing wrong at all. I was waiting to find out what they will come up with this time. It was an innocent verdict. I did nothing wrong at all. But we cannot change destiny. When I heard the previous ruling, I laughed. This time I was just waiting. I felt indifferent. It is all in the hands of God. Omar, so, I mean, this is a man who clearly doesn't believe he should be in court in the first place. The judge confirmed that. He felt the same way. But when he was found to be not guilty, there were many in the court who celebrated. We've got pictures from that. I mean, despite how shocking this ruling is for some, he was a very popular man for many during his time, as is Sisi.
Well, the ones who opposed him and many of the ones who toppled him and many of the ones who would have protested against this verdict are in jail at the moment, sentenced. Many of them are in exile, or many are silenced because, again, the current regime compared to Mubarak is much more aggressive. Mubarak used to use mainly gas bombs and electric stick to control demonstrations. We're seeing now just live bullets in face of demonstrations. Not just live bullets, but armored vehicles, tanks. What happened in August 2013, the mass killings of Rab'a, over 932 fatalities identified by their IDs, and 337 unidentified bodies, and we're talking in 12 hours. So the level of repression is just at a very this is not an extension of Mubarak. The regime has changed, but has changed to the worse. And the regime has changed because for the first time since the establishment of the republic, you had the high command of the army is superior than the presidential office. Mubarak was removed by the high command, and then the high command removed another president, President Morsi, the first Egyptian democratically elected civilian president, in July 2013, and then appointed a third president, Adli Mansour, and then now one of them within the high command is the president in the office. Okay. So we have a different regime and a different animal. Just one thing on the issue of repression, I think the head of the current regime, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, made it quite clear in one of his the leaked videos to the military officers. He was basically saying that the police officers should not be held on trial or put on trial because then they will not stand with you. Meaning that if you ask them to control demonstrations or repress, and they know that they will be placed on trial, they will not stand with you, i.e. military officers.
Okay,
so I think this is one
excuse me, jumping in here. I mean, this is not a good message, is it, to the Egyptian people? You've got those who've been demonstrating peacefully, who've ended up in jail, those who've been reporting on the story ending up in jail, and those who've been allegedly linked to murders walking away scot-free.
Yeah, and I think this is the exact message that he's trying to put forward, is that anybody who will be opposing this regime, he'll be either be sentenced to death, put in prison, or exiled, as Omar said, or whatever. You choose the way you're going to die. But anybody who opposes them, even the people who were with the coup from the beginning, and they started to change the view, they were really treated very badly, to the level that they ran away out of the country. They tried, like, look at what happened to the Barad'i, look what happened to Amr Hamzawi, look, so many individuals who, even our friend in Cairo, when anybody tried to speak something different from the tone that the coup is doing, they will be really scrutinized to the level that they will have to give up, because that's the message. We are only one direction. It's a military, and I think Omar is right in this sense. It have been from day one the military who have been ruling the country. They had a Mubarak figure, so the Mubarak was just a figure, but it is the military who have been ruling the country for the last 60 years, and now they just said, okay, we're not going to have any figures. We are here in full force. We are here in the full front. And those people who don't like it, go to hell. We don't mind what happened to you. And that's what we are seeing. We have seen helicopter shooting at protesters yesterday. Yeah, and it's crazy stuff. So here the clear message that's coming through is that you go and kill, it's fine. We'll let you free. But if the other side will protest, we will kill you.
Okay, let's go back to the verdict quickly. Clearing Mubarak will be a huge disappointment for some, as we heard there. There are those who simply want to see Egypt moving forward, including the current president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Particularly him, I should imagine. The former military chief has been seeking to bring Egypt out of the diplomatic cold with visits to Saudi Arabia, Russia and France in the past months. The US has also hailed Egypt as an important partner in the fight against the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL. At home, Sisi is facing simmering discontent over an ongoing energy crisis and the slow pace of economic recovery. And rights groups continue to criticize him over the harsh security crackdown, which has seen hundreds of protesters killed and thousands imprisoned. Hassan, I believe that we have dealt with the harsh response to protesters and the human rights allegations linked to that. But what about this relatively new issue of ISIL being in the country. How much of a threat is this going to pose to the leadership at the moment?
Well, it will pose a real big question, who is leading Egypt right now, whether it is the same kind of regime or it is a different regime. The Egyptian people do not care too much about vindication, about revenge, and so on. This is not the real issue. The real issue is whether Egypt will fulfill its commitment to the revolution, even to the January 2011 revolution or the June 2013 revolution against the Muslim Brotherhood. What the majority of the Egyptian people want now, they don't want neither the rule of the Muslim Brotherhood nor the rule of the military, if the military is not really committed to the goals of the revolution. So I think after this verdict, the Egyptian people will be much worried about the future.
I mean, you say, excuse me, jumping in here, that this is the real issue, but Omar, let me put it to you that maybe the real issue that Egyptians are facing is that they want their own personal security, that they want a normal life, possibly to move on, and that they want bread on the table.
I think, yeah, this is true. These are concepts that no one will challenge. You know, the dignity, the freedom, the bread. But it's oversimplistic, and it's often extremely misleading to speak or for somebody to speak about the Egyptian people or on behalf of the Egyptian people. The Egyptian people are extremely divided. Egypt has almost 90 million people, around 54 million voters. When they vote, their voting behavior was consistently diverse and consistently divided. When it's in free and fair elections, which basically happened between March 2011 until December 2012, and it did not happen either before or after, because even before 54, the women were not allowed to vote, so it was not really fair. And then afterwards, it was after 52, after the coup of 52, it was never neither free nor fair. So they are extremely divided in terms of voting behavior. However, the real challenge, which was a challenge since really 54, is that how we approach the bread and the security and that. One part of the country wanted the patron, wanted the military patron that hits hard on whoever opposes him, so no freedom, so sacrifice freedom for bread and security. That's one part of the country, and saw the patron in the guy with the military fatigue, who's very strong, very powerful, will give them bread at the end of the day and give them some security. Okay. Another part of the country was fed up with that, and this is mostly the youth, or many of the youth forces, that were saying, no, we want freedom, and we want to hold whoever is in office responsible.
Okay, Zakaria, as Omar was pointing out, that it's a very big country, very important country. But right now, it seems that what happened in the court symbolically reflects the ending of a chapter and the starting of a new one.
Yeah.
What's it going to look like?
Okay, there is so many scenarios that I would imagine, but let me just highlight something that you asked earlier in the question about who's going to be the scapegoat for the murders, since Mubarak now is free, he's innocent. And it's have been going on in the media now that it is the Muslim Brotherhood who are behind the killing themselves. And the people who are in the street, the revolutionists, they are the one who killed themselves. So it's again the scapegoat style of putting the blame on somebody else. Some of the scenarios that I could imagine that would happen is that especially the young youth, as Umar said, they will not give in. They will still be in the street. They will fight for the freedom because they have felt the freedom for the first time in 60 years. A freedom that maybe their fathers didn't see. A freedom that they have not witnessed in their life. So that was a moment in the 2011 revolution. They have felt that they are human back again. They felt that they have been respected everywhere in the world. I had friends telling me that when they go to the airport and they had the Egyptian passport in the hand, people were clapping for them. That moment is gone. So they will come and hunt back for that moment. They have the hunt of their dignity. They'll hunt for their freedom. They will give everything. They have already sacrificed 1,800 individuals well, in the revolution, 2011 revolution, they have sacrificed more people in Rabaa, they have sacrificed more people later on, and they have sacrificed up till yesterday, they have been sacrificing. And they are not going to back down, because they have smelled the freedom. Maybe other people, as you said, yes, there are people who will still say, oh, we want some security, we want the bread, we want all these things. They will still exist, because they feel that their job is not about freedom. It's not, they haven't smelled that yet. And that will make the huge difference. So I will feel that one of the biggest scenarios that I can imagine it will happen, that the youth will still carry on, but it depends how much the army, the military is willing to kill more.
Let's conclude on those words. Thank you very much, Zakaria Abdul Hadi. Also a very big thank you to my other guests, Hassan Nafa and Omar Ashur. And of course, we're always interested to hear your views on this Inside Story. You can post your comments at facebook.com/AJ Inside Story, or contact us on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. Mine is @Jane Dutton. Very big thanks for watching. Bye for now.